Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. The Path of Strength. Episode 6. Chapter 54. I sat in the corner with tears rushing down my face. Michael and Oliver are holding me back, out of the way of the doctors. Please don't let this be the end. I heard the final beep of the monitors flatlining and my heart stopped. I felt the bond snap and I couldn't stop the sob tearing out of my throat. I tried to break out Michael's arms, but he tightened his grip around my waist. He was gone. I never got to tell him what he truly meant to me. He died on my birthday. The only sound that could be heard over my sobbing was the flat line on the machine. Can you not turn that off? It isn't helping her. Michael snapped at the hospital staff in the room. The beeping was shut off and then silence. Only my sobs could be heard. Catalia, Oliver said hesitantly. I cannot function enough to form a full sentence. I continued sitting there in Michael's arms, sobbing. I faintly heard one of the doctors talking to someone, but I wasn't able to comprehend what was being said. Sparks? Sparks? Only one person causes sparks, but he is dead. Sparks? Tingling. Fingers were placed under my chin and they forced me to look up. Justin. It can't be. I glanced at the bed, but it empty. I glanced back towards him. Tears rushed down my face. This isn't real, I whispered. Yes, it is, Catalia. He really is here. He is alive. Michael whispered in my ear as he slowly let go of me, giving me a small push on my back. My love, Justin whispered. I tackled Justin and I knocked him down. He let out a low hiss as his back hit the ground. I frantically began kissing every inch of him that I could reach. We are going to give you two some privacy. Let the doctors know when you are ready for them to come do a full checkup on Justin. And, sis, please be careful with him. He is still kind of fragile. Michael linked me. I giggled and nodded my head to him. Click, we are alone now. I missed you, Justin. You have no idea how much I missed you. I whispered, it would not have been the same without you. I rolled to his left side, allowing him to roll towards me. Love, how about we go lie in bed? It might be more comfortable. I moved into a standing position and helped Justin stand up from the ground. We moved to the bed, without breaking from touching each other. I sit on the bed and he pulls me to lay down next to him. We stayed like that for hours before someone knocked on the door. Catalia, my father spoke through the door, I am going to let the doctor in to check on Justin. They were scared to disturb you. No one wants to get on the bad side of Sky after the last time they tried to get in your way. He opened the door and allowed Lee and Emily to enter. My dad walked to me and gave me a hug. He, then, reached over and squeezed Justin's shoulder. I am glad you pulled out of it, Justin, my dad said to him. I am too, Alpha. I can't imagine never being able to hold Catalia again or hear her voice, he said as his voice cracked at the end. The doctor began all of their checks on him. While they were doing their tests and making sure he was okay, I curled into Justin's side. I refused to move and any time they got too close, Sky would growl at them. Once they finished the tests, they left the room, leaving my dad in the room with us. Catalia, I am going to leave you for now. I am sure you two have a lot to catch up on. Please remember to link his parents tomorrow and let them know he is awake. His parents will want to see him. Now that he is out of this room, I expect you to eat something and take a proper shower. And sleep. Good night, Caught, Justin. With that, we were alone again. Tell me what I have missed. So, I did. I told him everything, except me marking him and healing him. I am scared of how he will react when he finds out. Call me a chicken, whatever you want. He held me tighter. Baby, as much as I love holding you, I am filthy. I haven't been able to shower for at least 2 weeks. I giggled. Of course, silly. Do you want me to help you to the bathroom? He nodded his head and I walked with him to the bathroom. He turned and faced the mirror. Goddess, I need to shave, he laughed. He is right, he does. He looked like he was trying to mimic the appearance of Chewbacca. He rubbed his fingers over his marking spot and then looked at it closely. Is there something that you left out of your story, love? I shook my head quickly. Of course not. Then, you let someone else mark me. Sky growled loudly and pushed me into the recesses of my mind. Mine, she growled. Hello, Sky. I was talking to Catalia, you know. It is rude to interrupt. You are mine. Yes, Sky. I am. Can I talk to Kat now? She isn't going to tell you. Scared of your I was finally able to cut her off and regain control of her. I am so sorry about her. It has been hard to control her the past couple of days, I told him as I looked at the ground. Kat, look at me. I shook my head no and continued staring at the ground. Baby, he whispered, as he placed his fingers under my chin and gently pulled my face up to look into his eyes. Baby, what is wrong? What are you scared to tell me? I slowly reached up and touched the mark on his neck. His mark was a white wolf, howling at the moon. He jolted from the sparks when I touched him. I tried to move my hand, but he held it in place. Babe, I will not be mad. I promise, my love. When I brought you to the hospital, you had lost so much blood. The doctors had pretty much given up, I whispered. They thought that the only way to possibly heal you would be for me to mark you, since I am an alpha female. It is said that alpha females have special gifts, gifts that they were hoping to unlock since you were my mate. Sky let the cat out of the bag about you being my mate when they refused her entry to the operating room. I struggled with the thought of marking you, not because I was scared to mark you, I felt the tears streaming down my face, but because I was scared that I was taking away your choice. I had done it to save you and I was praying that you would forgive me. After I had marked you, my hand started glowing and I healed the wound on your chest. Then, I stayed by your side. I refused to leave to go shower, besides that first night, because I was covered in blood. Your blood, my blood, rogue blood, all over me. That first night, I slept maybe an hour. In the past 2 weeks, I had about 10 to 15 hours of sleep and it was all cat naps, never a full rest. I was worried I would sleep or leave the room and something would happen to you, and I refused. I wanted to be here no matter what. Justin was quiet for a moment. Catalia, I have been waiting for you to be ready since I found out you were my mate. You have been my light. While I was in that coma or whatever it was, I felt it every time you touched me. Sometimes I could hear you begging me to wake up. I felt it when you marked me. Baby, I love you. And I love bearing your mark. Your mark makes it worth it. You make it worth it. You are my everything. My love. My heart. My soul. I am proud to bear your mark, just as I hope one day you will be proud to carry my mark and give me the opportunity to make you mine in every single way. Catalia, you are everything to me. Nothing else and no one else will come in our way. I felt the tears pricking at the back of my eyes. I really do not deserve this man. He wrapped me in his arms. Baby, don't cry. I don't need to mark you now. I stand by what I said. We will wait until you are ready to bear my mark. I nodded my head and continued to let his touch comfort me. The emotions of the past 2 weeks are too much for me to take right now. He is alive, and for that, I will always be eternally grateful. He is my everything. I see that now. They say you don't know what you had until it is gone, and they are right. I took it for granted. I took Justin for granted. I know I truly do not deserve this wonderful man in my life. I do not deserve to have him as my mate, but I am going to forever cherish him. He has become my everything. He is my everything. Chapter 56. Catalia's POV. Catalia, we need your help with something. I was woken up by a mind link from Michael. Goddess, this better be good. Not only are you waking me up, but you are trying to force me to leave my mate. I promise, it will be. Mom wants to throw Justin a small party when he gets out of the hospital, which from what staff told Mom will be later tonight, tomorrow morning, and Mom has been begging for you to come out of the hospital room. You have lost weight, and your skin has lost its glow, you seriously look like a pale vampire. I think Mom is going to try and force some vitamins down your throat too. He finished with a laugh. Fine, but I want to be back before Justin wakes up. I carefully roll off the bed, so I can throw on some leggings and a tank top. Thankfully, Michael and Oliver have been bringing me clothes from my room to wear. Justin starts to stir, so I quickly readjust my pillow, so he is holding it. He stiffens for a moment and then he slowly exhales and falls back to sleep. I left the room, and I spot Lee talking to one of the nurses. Lee, I have to help Michael with something really quick. Will you keep an eye on Justin for me? If he wakes up before I return, will you let him know that I will be back shortly? Of course, Catalia. I hurried out of the hospital and to the pack house. I spot Michael and my mom, and I rushed over to them. As soon as my mom spotted me, she engulfed me in a hug, squeezing tightly. I have been so worried about you, she whispered, don't disappear on me like that again. Mom, I sputtered, I can't breathe. Mom, you are trying to kill the future alpha, Elijah walked up and said while laughing. Mom pulled away and looked me up and down, you have lost weight. You need to eat. Mom, I am fine. Don't tell me you are fine. I bet you can't tell me the last time that you ate a proper meal. Unfortunately, she is right. I have not been eating for the past couple of weeks. I would chew on ice or take a couple of bites of something to appease them, but other than that, I was a wreck. I couldn't eat, I struggled to sleep without nightmares. I knew I wasn't taking care of myself, but I just couldn't bring myself to care. All I could think about was Justin lying in that bed, and there was nothing that could be done to help him. We spent the next 2 hours preparing one of the ballrooms for a small get-together for Justin's return home. I felt someone pushing on my link, trying to connect. Catalia? Is everything all right? It was just Justin. He must have woken up and I wasn't there. Yet, Michael needed my assistance, so I told him I would help him if it was done quickly. I was trying to be back before you woke up. It's okay, beautiful. I just wanted to make sure you were fine. You refused to leave my side last night, so I just wanted to make sure it wasn't urgent and that you did not need me. Nonsense, I always need you, Justin. After everything for the last 2 weeks, I have learned that I do need you and I always will, I said as my voice cracked at the end. Losing him, it really tore me up. It also may have been what I needed to realize that I would be an idiot to reject him. Ah, our baby is sad, Aries whimpered. Aries, I am fine, I just realized what I almost lost when you didn't wake up. I would have been stupid if I had actually rejected you. Love, how were you able to hear Aries? I forgot that he did not know that I could hear Aries, and I suspect that it was because I was an alpha female. My dad always stated how he could hear my mom's wolf, but she was not able to hear his, but I have a feeling ours is different, since I have different abilities than my father does. If I really am considered a legend, since I am a female alpha, then a lot of things are going to be different with our bond. I have learned a few things since I marked you. One is that I can hear your wolf counterpart, especially if his thoughts are directed at me. I imagine once you mark me, you will be able to hear Sky's annoying. I am about to head back to the hospital. Do you want me to pick you up something? Will you bring me some decent clothes? I am tired of these hospital gowns. It never leaves much to the imagination. Will you, also, bring me a pastry and coffee from Zydlia's? I giggled. Of course, Justin. Just so you know, I find the hospital gown. I enjoy that it does not leave much to my imagination. I could already see the wheels turning with that last comment. I usually avoid comments that could be taken inappropriately, but lately, with Justin I feel different. It was like this right before the rogue attack and then the feeling continued to grow. Now, I feel completely comfortable around him. I have my shy moments, but for the most part I am comfortable and safe with him. I rushed to my room and grabbed him some of the clothes that he had placed in my room for when he stayed over. I then went to Zydlia's to pick up the pastries and coffee for Justin. She even threw in something extra special, a new recipe for Justin and me to try. I have always known that I was her favorite. Once, I walk back into the hospital room, Justin engulfs me in a hug. Goddess, I missed you, he mumbled, kissing the top of my head. I missed you too. I am sorry that I had to leave. My brother was insistent that I help him with something, and it got my mom off my back about getting out of this room, even though she still harassed me about how much weight I have lost and my lack of eating. We are going to change that tonight. I asked the chef to make us a special dinner and have someone bring it to us. I asked the doctors and nurses not to disturb us tonight, so that we could have some time to ourselves, and since I pretty much missed your birthday. I feel awful that you spend your 21st birthday stuck in this room and then I technically died on what should have been your special day. No need to feel guilty. The best gift you could have given me was coming back. I don't know what I would have done if you had truly passed. I felt the tightness in my throat and the tears pricking the back of my eyes. He raised his hand and brushed his thumb across my cheek. None of that, love. No need to cry. I am here now, and if I have a say in it, I will never leave you by your side. We are going to have a good night. No tears. We are going to lay there, eat our dinner, and cuddle while watching a movie. And I promise if any rogues attack this time during our movie, we will not respond, babe. I giggled. You know, I will have to respond. I am the future alpha after all, Justin. He sighed. Why did I know you were going to say that? Can't you give me the peace of mind for like 2 seconds that you will not throw yourself into any dangerous environments? I sighed. I am sorry, Justin. You know, I can't just sit back and neglect my duty as alpha. I know, I just wish that I could always keep you in a little cocooned bubble, so that I would know you are always safe. Let's lay down. I had one of the nurses grab some of your favorite movies for us to watch. We are starting our marathon with the first Harry Potter movie. Goddess, I love this man. Chapter 57. Justin and I had a nice, relaxing night. We cuddled all night, ate dinner, and had some popcorn. We only made it halfway through the fourth Harry Potter before we had both fallen asleep. It was nights like this that I enjoyed and appreciated. I cannot remember the last time that I had a night where I was completely relaxed and not worried about something. Truthfully, I think the last time was before my 18th birthday, before the attack. I was usually carefree and happy before I turned 18. After all, I was considered the Pack Princess, a name that I embodied well. Ever since the attack, I always felt that something bad was going to happen and ruin my mood. I was constantly looking behind my back. It was like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. I have learned from past experiences when something is going well, then expect the other shoe to eventually drop. Usually when that shoe does decide to drop, it is never in my favor. I am scared of what we have to look forward to. I am scared of the challenges and roadblocks that we may be forced to face, but as I stare at Justin while he sleeps, I realize that I can do anything with him by my side. My father has asked me to attend his interrogation today of the prisoner that we had taken from the rogue attack. My dad has been down there multiple times a day, trying to get the guy to break, but he is refusing. Normally, he would not let me in to interrogate rogues, but there was an incident a few years back when I was 17 and I ended up in the interrogation cell in the dungeon, looking for my dad. The rogue had said some unsavory things to me, and I sort of snapped on him. Unfortunately for him, my father had left out some of the devices and I showed him what it is like with a member of the Frost family. My father had momentarily left the room, so that he could be briefed by one of the rogue's guards, so you can only imagine his shock when he came back to find me using the thumb screw on his rogue. He asked if I wanted to try interrogating the bastard and see if I could get the information from him. I agreed. Dad said it was okay as long as Mom never found out what he allowed me to do. Apparently, before Mom and him had kids, they had an agreement that their children would never be subjected to some of the darker parts of being alpha before they were 18. For the most part, he had stuck with that rule. Michael didn't begin taking part in the darker aspects of the alpha role until he was 18 and Elijah still hasn't taken part in it. He said his Luna would have his balls if he broke his promise, so it was kept a secret until I was 18 and then no one cared that I was interrogating prisoners. Even though we rarely had prisoners, I did not think it was going to be a super big deal with Mom. That first rogue I interrogated took a while to spill his secrets. I was with him for a total of 10 hours, which according to my father was probably a broken record because it usually took a couple of days' time to break some of the rogues. I then became a fan of using medieval devices, which, you know, now that I think about, is probably some sign that I am truly and utterly psychotic. Oh well. At least I can admit that I am psychotic, even if it is only a little bit. I never really thought of myself as one to enjoy torturing others, but that rogue really pissed me off. I was having a bad day, and he was just icing on the cake, so I took matters into my own hands. That day I learned that Sky even had a dark side, a side even darker than mine. I glanced over at Justin's sleeping form, debating whether I should wake him up and let him know I needed to go do something or if I should just leave a note for him. I know that if I wake him up, he is going to insist that he goes with me, since the doctor told him that he could get discharged today, as long as all his tests came back normal. I decided against waking him up. I do not need him to come with me. This is not a side of me that he needs to see or should even want to see. On the bright side, he has not marked me yet, so he is unable to feel my emotions through the bond. He can only get slight inklings if I am in trouble, but he will not be able to feel the glee I get from torturing answers from someone. Catalia, are you coming? Michael linked me. I am about to get dressed and head to the dungeons. I was contemplating whether I should wake Justin, but I decided to let him sleep. He does not need to see this side of me. I do not even like Oliver being able to see this side of me. Are James and his father going to be there? James will be, but his dad has other important business to attend to. Typically, it is traditional for all the rank members to attend interrogations of rogues or prisoners. We generally have one guard with us as well, as a precaution. Usually, the Luna and sometimes the Beta and Gamma females attend interrogations, but not always. It used to be a rule that my great-great-great-grandfather had, and none of the other Alphas and their Lunas thought to have the rule changed, until my mother took the role of Luna. She had spoken up and reminded my father that not all women are fond of watching men get their insides ripped to pieces or submerged in monkshood. My dad told me that the first time my mom witnessed someone getting tortured, she was pregnant with Michael, and she could not handle it at all. She lost her lunch all over my father and Beta Damien. Dad was not happy. So, when Mom approached him about changing the rule, he was all too happy to oblige with what she wanted. Plus, I always thought it was slightly barbaric to force the ranked females of the pack to watch interrogations. Why make them watch something they had no interest in? Not only that, but my mom was pregnant during her first interrogation, so her stomach was weaker than it normally would have been. My mom has always been what I consider to be the perfect Luna. She is caring and compassionate, tender and loving. Most of all, she prefers to take care of the pack. She loves doing tasks that involve watching over the members of the pack and listening to their concerns and coming up with a way to solve their problems. My mom will attend training, most mornings, but she prefers not to have to fight, if it is not needed. She has never been a fan of fighting or blood. Not only that, but Dad is quite protective of her and prefers if she just stays out of harm's way, which is why you will usually never see my mom at a fight. Dad would flip him if she even tried. Ironically, everyone thought he would treat me the exact same way that he treats his Luna, but he doesn't. The pack thought that because I was his only female daughter, especially once they announced Elijah would be their last child, he would treat me like I was a glass slipper that was bound to break at the drop of a hat, which is how he treats Mom. With me, though, he is quite different. Being the pack princess has not changed anything for me. He has always been equally as hard on me, sometimes harder, than what he is with my brothers. He has never tried to stop me from doing something that many would consider to be unladylike. The only thing being the pack princess has gotten me is occasionally out of trouble, which I hate to admit. Sometimes I got into a lot of trouble, but never as much as Elijah did. Dad always said Elijah was causing his hair turn prematurely gray. I finally arrived at the pack house, and I headed around to the back where the dungeons were located. We called it dungeons, but it does not actually look like a dungeon. It is a small building about 1,000 feet behind the pack house. It has guards placed around the entire perimeter and the entire place is covered with state-of-the-art technology. We use regular security cameras and some infrared cameras too. Inside, the building has been modernized. It looks like what the humans would use for their maximum security prisons. I walked about Joshua, who is one of the prison guards on duty, nodding my head towards him. "Good morning, Alpha, your father is waiting for you in interrogation 2A, he said to me as I entered the passcode and scanned my hand for entry. I nodded my head in acknowledgement, walking inside and heading towards the interrogation room. I walked into the room and saw everyone was waiting behind the double-sided glass. "About time," Michael commented. I flipped him on the middle finger and went to stand by my dad. "Catalia, you are leading the interrogation this time. So far, we have only been able to get a name out of him. Carmichael. That's it. He is very tight-lipped. We have used the thumb screw, monk's hood, mountain ash, and silver. None have worked. Now it is your turn. He has not eaten since lunch yesterday. He has had water and that is it, but it has been barely enough water to sustain him. I will be in the room with you and so will Oliver. Everyone will be waiting and watching behind the glass unless you decide that you need someone. Yes, Oliver has assured me that he can handle what you put prisoners through. I showed him some of your interrogation videos. Understood, Alpha, I responded, while nodding my head. We walked into the interrogation room and the prisoner was hanging on the wall opposite us. His arms and legs spread apart. Well, look what the cat finally dragged in. Chapter 58. Alert! This chapter contains sensitive content. If you cannot manage, please skip to the next chapter. Well, look at what the cat dragged in, the rogue said to me. I stared at his figure, as he hung on the wall. His greasy black hair hanging down in front of his face. His eyes were a dull green and they appeared lifeless. Her cheeks were sunken, and I could see his bones protruding from his sides. He looked like he was already half dead, like there was not much left for him. I looked at him and smirked. He has no idea that he is in for. This man is part of the reason that I almost lost my mate. He was one of the 4 that attacked him. He was the one that caused the giant gash that nearly killed him. I will not go easy on him. Just who I wanted to see. My alphas want you and they will get you. The rogue paused for a second, turning to my father, decided that you needed a woman to come do what you were too much to accomplish? I will not spill any of their secrets. If I am good and do not speak to you, then maybe they will let me have a taste of your alpha whore. I heard a loud growl coming from behind the two-sided glass. I chose to ignore them. This was now my interrogation. I picked up my 10-inch knife and a pouch of a mixture of crushed mountain ash and monk's hood. You will talk to me, I murmured. Oh, the plans that I have for you if you choose not to speak. I held up the knife and mixture. I watched as he gulped noisily, and I smirked at him. This will be fun. Well, fun for me, probably not so much for him. Have you decided if you are going to speak first, or shall I show you what this woman is capable of? He shook his head no. I guess this means more fun for me. I shrugged my shoulders, your choice, I guess. I walked towards him and raised my knife and slashed him from the top of his shoulder, all the way to right above his pants line. This particular injury is going to be for my mate, I murmured, as he screamed at the incision that I just made. I love it when they scream, and his screams were about to get that much worse. I opened the pouch with the mixture and pinched some of it between my 2 fingers. Are you going to tell me why you attacked my pack? He shook his head now, adamantly. I took a handful of the crushed mixture and grinned it into his wounds. I heard the sizzling of his flesh as he screamed his pain and frustration. I made sure his entire wound was covered with the monk's hood and mountain ash. His flesh continued to sizzle with the more of the mixture I continued to add. The smell of burning flesh filled my nostrils. Yuck! I hate the smell when their flesh is burning, but the end result is usually worth it. I walked over to the table that my dad had laid the different sorts of devices on. What should I use next? Perfect! One of my favorite methods. One of my favorite devices is known as the Spanish boot, which is similar to having a rack for your legs. Your legs are placed into a set of tightly fitted wooden or sometimes iron boots. We use silver instead of iron or wood, since silver is harmful to wolves. Wooden wedges are inserted between the boot and the victim's skin. Traditionally, mallets are then used to drive the wooden wedges in, causing abrasions, lesions, and breaking the bones. However, ours has spikes that help to worsen the effects. Usually, when I know that I am going to be in the interrogation room, I have them dip them into liquid monkshood and mountain ash for a more painful experience. I remember one day I was talking to Michael about this particular device, and I referred to it as just the boots, and one of the younger teenagers were walking past us. She heard us talking about boots and thought I was talking about the new Doc Marten sale. These are definitely not the kind of shoes you would want to buy during the March Madness sale. After that, Michael and I started switching those types of conversations to the mind link. I placed thick gloves on my hands, so I could pick up the device without burning my skin, and walked over to him. "Do you know what this is used for?" He shakes his head. "Good, today will be a learning experience." I placed the device on the ground and used the lever on the wall to slowly lower him, inch by inch, so he was closer to the ground. "Perfect. I will place both of your feet right here, one by one, and you see these pretty beams right here." I motioned towards the beams as I placed his feet onto the stalks, and he screamed, tears running down his face. "These will sit between the boot and your skin. Once I close the boot, these beautiful silver spikes that are coated in monkshood and mountain ash." I watched his face pale, and I started to close the boots. He screamed in anguish and my father turned away. "Brutal, caught. Remember me never to piss you off." Oliver joked through the link. I silently laughed at Oliver. "Are you ready to talk yet? Or should I go grab a rather special device that I like to use for fingers? I could also take some crushed monkshood and feed it to you. I was told that you have not eaten in a few days." I watched his eyes as the fear settled in. This is usually how it started with the ones I interrogated. They usually gave me some type of hell because I was a woman until they are with me in an interrogation room. I am going to leave him in your capable hands. We will be watching. Link if you need someone, my father liked as he left the room. "You cannot be seriously leaving me in the room with her. She is crazy," the rogue continued to yell, as if someone was actually listening to him. I laughed. "You think someone is going to come in here and save you from me? You would have been better off answering the questions when they asked you. I promise you do not want to be left in a room with me. They at least would have made your death quick if you answered their questions." I grabbed the crushed monk's hood and walked back to him. "Now, I am going to ask you again. Why did those rogues attack my pack? Choose your response wisely. If I do not like the answer, you are going to get monk's hood for dinner." He refused to answer my question. "I am not telling the filthy alpha whore anything," he finished by spatting my face. I shrugged my shoulders and grabbed a big handful of monk's hoods. He claimed his mouth shut. I gripped his jaw and forced his mouth open and jammed the monk's hood down his throat, holding his jaw closed until it was in his throat. When I let go of him, he sputtered and gagged. I backed up a few paces, just in case he decided to vomit all over me. I watched as his flesh continued to burn from the monk's hood. I walked to the table and sat at it. "I have all day, love, so I would get to talking. You really do not want to piss me off any further. So, let's start with something that we know. Your name is Carmichael, and you have multiple alphas. Am I wrong?" He shook his head no. "Good. He is honest. Why did you attack my pack?" He stayed silent, refusing to answer my simple question. I grabbed my long knife again and poured liquid mountain ash over the top of it. "Next tactic is then." I walked to him and grabbed his thumb. "You either being answer my questions, or I will begin to chop off each of your fingers until you do, and if you still choose not to answer, I will then move to your toes. Why did you attack my pack?" He still refused to answer. I sliced his thumb off and listened to his blood-curdling scream for 10 minutes. Such a wimp. Once he was quiet, I asked the same question again, but once again, he refused to answer. I grabbed the next finger and sawed it off, making sure to take my precious time. I continued this process until I had cut all the fingers off his left hand. I moved to add more monkshood to my blood and then proceeded to move towards his right hand. He screamed in terror as I picked up the thumb. All you have to do is answer my questions and then we can finish this, but the longer you prolong the inevitable, the longer we will sit here, and I will slowly cut off all your limbs. Just know, the longer that I have to be away from my mate, the more brutal the pain will become. I say you chop off his DK for shits and giggles, Sky said through our link. Of course, she is always for cutting off people's MD. No questions asked. My wolf reckons that I chop off your DK. Is that something you would like? I asked him. He frantically shook his head. I shrugged my shoulders and picked up his thumb on the hand again. I sliced it cleanly off and listened to his screams again. As I go to cut off the next finger, he finally speaks. My alphas were after you. They wanted the princesses of the White Fang Pack. Chapter 59. My alphas were after you. They wanted the princesses of the White Fang Pack. I laughed. Of course, I was the target. Why does that even surprise me anymore? Who are they though and why do they want me? What did I do to garner this kind of attention from a bunch of rogues and wannabe alphas? I took a few steps closer to him. And what did I do to garner the attention from your alphas? He laughed. You really don't know who they are, do you? Now, I am confused. Am I supposed to know who they are? I have no idea who these rogue wannabe alphas are. I can tell you are confused. Let me give you a little hint, they want to finish what they started. They want to make you their whore. Just like you were meant to be. They ordered us to attack that pathetic excuse of a mate you have, he sneered at me. I froze. It could not be. Catalia. Do you need one of us to come in? My father and Oliver spoke through the mind link at the same time. I was frozen though. It was like I could not speak or move. It was like at the moment they chose to say that my world stopped. I had moved on by what had happened to me, or so I thought. I was getting better with Justin, but he is saying those words could only mean one group of people that would want to finish what they started. I could feel someone talking to me through the link, but I could not understand what they were saying to me. I fully registered the words from the rogue and it was like something snapped inside of me. I was no longer frozen, and I rushed towards him and began to pummel his face. Nothing was going to stop me from killing this bastard. How dare he talk about Justin in that manner? It is funny how I would not begin to react in this manner if it came to protecting myself and my values, but when it comes to Justin, you bet yourself I will drop everything to defend him, even if he does not mean it. After all, no one FKS with my mate. No one. Catalia. Love, are you okay? Justin. Justin's talking to me. Who told him to come? He was not supposed to see me like this. This was not the side of me that I ever wanted Justin to have to see of me. I struggled to respond. I heard the door open. Sandalwood and orange blossom. His scent wafted to me. Strong arms wrapped around me, and I focused on the sparks rushing through my body. My body slowly started to relax, and I felt the fight suddenly leave my body. Justin was here and everything was going to be okay. My mate was okay. I felt Justin wrap his arms around my waist, pick me up, and carry me out of the interrogation room. He stopped outside the room and said something to someone. I felt someone touch my face. I slowly turned my head to look at them. Michael. He gives me a small smile. Are you going to be okay? I decided I am tired of lying about being okay. I don't know if I will be okay, knowing that they are after me. I am meant to be strong. I am their next alpha. Maybe the elders were right, and I was not meant to be alpha, especially if I cannot control my emotions and thoughts. I slowly shook my head now and laid my head back on Justin's shoulders. Justin started moving again and he carried me to the pack house. He went up to my room, I guess it was our room now, and walked me to the bathroom. I heard the water running and he turned back towards me. Catalia, do you want to bathe by yourself, or would you like my help? I stared ahead, not knowing how to answer him. I heard him ask the question. I finally looked at him and nodded my head. Are you sure, my love? He said quietly. I nodded my head again and he took a step closer to me. He slowly reached for my shirt and gently pulled it off. He moved to my socks and shoes and slowly took those off. He reached for my pants and paused, as if he was waiting for permission. I nodded my head at him, and he unfastened my jeans and slowly slid them down my legs. He reached up and unclasped my bra, letting it slide down my arms, ending with him reaching for my panties and sliding them down my legs. I heard his breath hitched and he lifted me into the tub. He sat at the edge of the tub and grabbed the loofah and began to clean my body, taking special care not to linger on me. Once he finished washing my body, he grabbed the nozzle spray and titled my head back and began to wet my hair. Once my hair was thoroughly wet, he began to wash my hair, lathering the shampoo in. Once the shampoo was sprayed out, he lifted me gently and wrapped a towel around my body and pulled me out of the shower. He set me on the toilet and rushed into the room. I heard him rummaging through drawers, presumably looking for clothes for me. He came back in with one of his t-shirts, some leggings, and undergarments. He helped me dress before he carried me to the bed, laying me down. I know he is being patient with me and waiting for me to speak, but I don't know what to say. How do I tell him my one fear is coming to fruition? Doesn't that sound crazy? They can't hurt me. I am the alpha after all. Unfortunately, they have already done their damage to me. I am damaged and I have dragged Justin into my damnation. The sad reality is I cannot live without him, which means he is stuck with me struggling. He is stuck with my internal fears. I guess I can be happy that I have not allowed him to mark me. If he had marked me, he would be able to feel everything I was feeling. I would never wish that on him, but I know he will eventually expect to mark me. His wolf will only be able to hold out for so long. It is truly miraculous he has lasted this long. Speaking of wolves, mine has been awfully quiet throughout all this. Normally she is always there inputting her 2 senses. I am here, Catalia. I told you I would never abandon you. I knew this was something you needed to process on your own, so I was going to stay silent until you processed everything. I think you should talk to Justin about it. Aries said they are willing to listen to us and help us in any way they might need to. She is right. This really isn't fair to Justin. He deserves to know what I am thinking, what I am feeling, as this could directly affect him. He needs to know what he is signing up for by staying with me. They are after me, I whispered to Justin. He stared at me for a second. Who is after you, love? I am silent. It is like I cannot bring myself to answer his question, even though I know I should. The rogue said they were coming for me, to try and make me their whore, I said. My voice was trailing off. I heard a low growl rumble in his chest. His arms tightened around me. I will never let anyone ever hurt you ever again. That is a promise of love. I cannot protect you if you do not tell me who I need to protect you from. The men that attacked me when I was 18, they are after me again. I am essentially the reason that you were attacked. It was all my fault you were injured. It is my fault that I almost lost you before I could tell you what exactly you meant to me. Justin's arms instinctively wrapped around me tighter. Baby, you are not to blame for them attacking this pack and you are not to blame for my injuries. Goddess forbids, if something had happened to me, Catalia, it would not have been your fault. It would have been their fault. You cannot control the actions of others, love. Plus, it takes a lot more than a couple of scratches to injure me and take me away from you. You, my love, are my everything and I would move heaven and just to remain by your side. Chapter 60. Justin's POV. I rolled over in the hospital bed and noticed that the other side of the bed was empty. I cracked my eyes open and searched the room. Empty. Where did Cot go? I glanced at the table next to the bed and saw a piece of paper. I picked it up and read it. Cot said that she had to take care of something and would be back in a little bit. She told me I could link her if I needed something. There is a gentle knock on the door before it opens. Dr. Lee peeked her head inside. Good morning, Justin. I am glad to see you are awake right now. How would you feel about being released from the hospital today? I smiled at her. That is the best news I have heard today. My tests came back all right. Yep. We think that your miraculous healing came from some type of divine intervention. The moon goddess must really be looking out for you. I laughed. You have no idea. I am going to prepare your discharge papers so that you can get out of here. I am sure Catalia will be excited to see you discharge. I know she has been getting tired of the hospital room. She told me the bed is not nearly as comfortable as the one in her room and she was beginning to miss it. The doctor left the room, shutting the door behind her quietly. I got up and began to gather our stuff that was in the room. By the time Lee came back into the room, I was ready to go. Lee begins to go over all the discharge information with me, making sure to tell me if I start to feel lightheaded, dizzy, or nauseous, then to come back and see her since it could be a side effect of dying and coming back. Before Lee finishes, I felt someone pushing on my mind link. Justin. I need you to try and contact Catalia through the link and see if you can get a response from her. Michael yelled at me through the link. What's going on? I quickly force the mind link with Catalia, and I can feel her rising panic and anxiety, followed by her heightening anger. Catalia. Love, are you okay? I asked through the link, but did not receive anything from her. I looked at Lee and told her I had to go, but I would send someone later to get our stuff. Where are you? I can feel her anger, panic, and anxiety. I shouted through the link at Michael. I am not supposed to tell you this, but no one is willing to get near her in this state. We are worried about setting her off. She made us promise not to call you. This was a side of her she never wanted you to see. I cut him off. Michael, where are you? Dungeons. We are at the dungeons. Cot is questioning the rogue prisoner, and he said something that caused her to snap. I was about 2 to 3 miles away from the dungeons. It will be easier if I shifted to get there. I quickly shifted and took off, allowing Ares to get us to the dungeons as quickly as possible. Once outside the dungeon, one of the guards tried to stop me from entering. Ares growled at him and the guy backed off slightly with his arms raised. You aren't allowed in here. We were told the access to the prisoner was by invitation only by the ranked members. That was Ares' snapping point. He viewed this as a challenge, and someone kept him from getting to his mate. You will not keep me from my mate, he bellowed through the link at him. At that moment, one of the other guards walked up. "Freddy, let him through. That is Catalia's mate." Michael linked me and told me that he has all permissions granted to him to be a ranked member. The guard bowed his head to me, scanned his hand, and allowed me entry inside the dungeon. Once inside, I shifted back and one of the guards inside handed me shorts and a shirt. I followed Catalia's scent to one of the interrogation rooms. I opened the door and saw the ranked members watching from behind the glass. I peeked into the room and saw Catalia beating out of the rogue. I looked at Michael. "Are you going to tell me what happened and why she is not responding to my links?" I could tell that Michael and the Alpha were having a silent conversation. I ignored them and walked into the room with Catalia. I slowly approached her from behind and wrapped my arms around her waist, cautiously. I picked her up and cradled her in my arms, walking back out of the room. I stopped outside the door and turned to look at the ranked members. "I hope one of you can tell me what exactly happened in there and what was done to my mate that caused her to be in this state." Michael slowly approached Catalia and asked her if she was going to be all right, but she did not respond. She just continued to stare at him in almost a catatonic state. After a few seconds of ignoring him, she finally looked him in the eye and shook her head no. I carried her to the pack house, and I took her up to our room. I walked into the bathroom and set her on the toilet, while I ran her a hot bath, making sure that I added some of the essential oils that she liked. I remember my sister telling me one time that all women liked essential oils, especially if they could find a scent that was similar to that of their mate. That was exactly what I did. I had asked Kat what my scent was to her, and I went and found some essential oils. Usually, if she had a long, stressful day or a particularly grueling training session, I would gather the essential oil and run her a steaming bath to relax her. After I finished her water, I turned back to her. "Catalia, do you want to bathe by yourself or would you like my help?" She stared at me, unblinking. I don't know how to help her if I don't know what happened in that interrogation room. What could he have possibly said to her to cause this kind of turmoil in her? She finally looked at me and nodded her head. "Are you sure, my love?" I quietly asked her. She nodded her head again and I cautiously took another step towards her. I slowly reached for her shirt and gently pulled it above her head. I moved to take off her socks and shoes before I reached for her pants, pausing, waiting for her to give me permission to take off her pants. She nodded her head at me, and I slowly unfastened her jeans and slid them down her legs. I reached up and unclasped her bra and let it slide down her arms. Once her bra was off, I reached for her panties and slid them down her legs. Once she was in front of me, my breath hitched and I had to take a couple of deep breaths. She was stunning. Absolutely beautiful. I cannot believe the amount of trust she has for me to allow me the opportunity to undress her and help her. If I had asked her this just a month ago, she would have freaked out. "Mate is beautiful," Aries whispered. "Yes, she is. She definitely is," I responded. I lifted her off the toilet and placed her in the tub. I sat at the edge of the tub and grabbed her loofah and began to slowly clean her body. I made sure to take special care not to linger on her intimate areas. I did not want to send her spiraling out of control with my touch. Once I finished washing her body, I grabbed the nozzle spray and gently tilted her head back. Once I made sure her hair was wet, I started to lather the shampoo in and then proceeded to wash the shampoo out of her hair. I grabbed a towel and gently lifted her out of the tub and wrapped her body in the towel. I set her on the toilet and rushed back into the room, heading for the closet. I started to rummage in the drawers, trying to find some clothes for her to wear. I found a pair of her leggings and some of her undergarments and decided to grab one of my shirts for her to put on. I walked back into the bathroom to see her still sitting in the same position that I had left her in. I lifted her up and helped her dress before carrying her to the bed and laying her down. We lay there in silence and I was waiting for her to speak. "Maid is sad," Aries whimpered. "I know, buddy, I know. I don't know how to help her. She will talk to us when she is ready to. She just isn't ready." He whimpered again. "My poor wolf is usually a fierce beast that cannot be messed with, except when it comes to our mate. She turns him into a little whipped puppy." "Watch who you are calling a puppy," he growled at me. "Catalia looks up at me, they are after me," she whispered. I am quiet for a second as I processed what she said. "Who is after you, love?" We spend another moment in silence before she responds, her voice cracking as she answers me. "The rogues said they were coming for me, to try and make me their whore," I growled as I tightened my arms around her. "How dare anyone try to hurt what is mine? I will never let anyone ever hurt you ever again. That is a promise, love. I cannot protect you if you do not tell me who I need to protect you from, though. The men that had attacked me when I was 18, they are after me again. I am essentially the reason that you were attacked. It was my fault you were injured. It is my fault that we almost lost you before I could tell you exactly what you meant to me." I instinctively wrapped my arms around her, holding her even tighter to me. "Baby, you are not to blame for them attacking this pack and you are not to blame for my injuries. Goddess forbids, if something had happened to me, Catalia, it would have not been your fault. No matter what happens between us moving forward, I need you to understand that and see that I do not blame you one bit. Plus, it takes a lot more than a couple of scratches to injure me and to take me away from you. You, my love, are my everything and I would move heaven and just to remain by your side for as long as you will have me." She stared at me in silence for a little while longer and then she raised her arms and wrapped them around my neck. I let her pull my neck down towards her and she nuzzled her face into my neck. "I love you, Justin. I love you too, my love," I whispered to her. "I need to find something that I can do about these bastards, so that Catalia is no longer haunted by the demons of her past." Chapter 61. I laid with Catalia, and we watched a movie until she was fully asleep, and I could hear her soft snores, and her breathing evened out. "Alpha, what happened in that interrogation room with Catalia?" I reached out to the Alpha and asked. It is going to be a semi-long story, so I can give you some background. Try not to judge me too harshly when you hear it. He paused for a moment before continuing. "Before we had kids, Isabella made me make her a promise. She didn't want to have to raise her children the same way that I was raised. From a young age, I was taken everywhere with my father when he was doing his visits and completing his tasks as Alpha, including interrogations and tortures. She did not want her children to be subjected to the darker parts of the role of Alpha until they were able to make the conscious decision to be a part of it." I agreed. None of our kids would see any of the darker sides of being Alpha until they were of age. With Michael and Elijah, I kept to that. Elijah had not seen the inside of any of the interrogation rooms and Michael did not see them until he turned 18. With Catalia, there was a mistake. Isabella sent her to find me, and she ended up in the dungeons in one of the rooms with a prisoner. The rogue that was in there said some less than savory things to her, so she taught him a lesson. We came into his screams, and he ended up telling Cot everything that he refused to tell us. From that moment forward, I made the executive decision to keep it from my Luna of what transpired in that room and what we had witnessed Catalia doing at the age of 16. Whenever we had a particular difficult rogue that we could not get information from, we would turn to Catalia as a last resort. Sometimes she could break them and sometimes she couldn't. So, we decided to do it this time, especially since she is so close to taking the role of Alpha. She made everyone promise after the last interrogation that none of us would ever tell you about this side of her. She was embarrassed about it and thought that you would see her differently. I could tell she enjoyed. She enjoyed their screams. Sky enjoyed it too, which I think just fueled her desire and need for it more. We made the promise, and we kept that promise until today. This rogue triggered Catalia like I have never seen before. He, at first, would only tell her that his alphas were after her, but she couldn't understand why any alphas would be after her. After all, she did nothing wrong to any other alphas. I could tell by the look on her face that she did not think she did anything wrong besides be a female alpha. Then, the rogue told her that his alphas wanted to make her their whore, just like she was always meant to be since the first time. It was at that moment, I saw her make the connection to the bastards that had attacked her. I saw the fear in her eyes. The rogue kept talking and something in her just snapped, and that is why she ended up attacking him and punching him, ruthlessly. As Alpha, I should have stepped in sooner, but I didn't. I wanted to see how it was going to play out. Then, it reached the point that all of us were worried that going in there could end with one of us getting injured. Catalia was not in her right mind, so Oliver had suggested doing the one thing we promised her we would not do, which was calling you. We could tell she went into fight mode. With you being her mate, your scent should have calmed her, and your touch should relax her, so I told Michael to go ahead and do it. I would face her wrath for calling you later. He paused for a moment before asking, "Can you tell me how she is doing now?" I paused for a moment. My fists are clenching. I refuse to let them lay another hand on Catalia. She is mine and no one will take her away from me. Catalia is doing okay. When we got back to the room, I gave her a bath and took her to the bed and laid her down. We talked for a little bit. She told me a little of what happened, nowhere in depth like you gave me. Then, she slowly fell asleep in my arms, while watching a movie with me. I don't know how else to help her. I have told her countless times that I will not let anything happen to her. I know, Justin. It is hard with Catalia. One moment she will be happy and content, then the next it is like she is thrown back into memories of what happened to her, and you have no idea how to help her. She is trying, Justin. I never want to see her go through what she went through when she did not think that you would make it. She was terrified and I could see the wheels turning in her head when she marked you. The thought of marking you scared her, but the thought of you not surviving scared her even more. She does love you, Justin, and what she needs right now is your love and support. I am happy that you have been there for her all this time, even though I know it is frustrating not to be allowed to claim her or mark her. I can only imagine how overbearing your wolf is being about it too. Thank you for your words, Alpha. I know she is struggling. I could sense her fear when I learned that she had marked me. Like I told her, I have wanted to bear her mark since I learned she was my mate. I do love her, and I will remain by her side. I know she will eventually allow me to mark her, which makes my wolf and I happy. It, also, is enough to calm us when we remember the fact that she is walking around without our mark. We know Catalia can handle herself, but that does not stop our instinct from wanting to be there to protect her and love her. I know you do, Justin. I am glad that the moon goddess chose you to stand next to Catalia on her journey. You have been good to her, he said as he cut the link with me. I laid there holding on to Catalia, contemplating what her father told me. How dare those bastards think they have any claim to my mate? She is mine and they will never be able to take her from me. I would rather die before I let anyone touch her again. As I tried to sleep, I had decided that I wanted to do something special for Catalia. I think I had the perfect idea. Let's just hope the Alpha can be on board and will not tell Catalia what I have planned. Once I had a full plan for what I wanted to do for Catalia, I tried my hardest to go to sleep. I wanted to be awake before Catalia, so I could talk to her father about my ideas and pray that he was on board. As I lay there for what felt like hours before I finally fell asleep, holding her in my arms. Catalia's POV. I woke to Justin's scent hanging in the air, but I could tell he was no longer in the bed with me. I slowly opened my eyes and saw a tray sitting to the side of the bed with a steaming plate of food on it. I listened closely and heard the shower running. He must have woken up before me and decided to take a shower. I heard the water shut off and within 5 minutes Justin was walking into the bedrooms, with only a pair of shorts on. I quickly turned away as I felt my cheeks heating. I could only imagine how red my face was. Good morning. I had the kitchen send you up some breakfast, since I imagine you did not eat anything yesterday. Thank you, I whispered. I could tell that he was happy, but I could not figure out what put him in such a good mood. Why are you in such a good mood? I asked him. No reason. I am just happy that you marked me and that I will get to spend the rest of my days by your side, he chirped. I looked down at my plate and I could feel the blush spreading across my face. I felt as red as a tomato, and I am sure that I looked equally red too. Come on. Finish eating. We have stuff to do today. Really now? Like what? Well, I have to make up for nearly dying on your birthday, so we are going out. We are probably just going to go for a walk through the territory. I am ready for all these bastards to know that you are my mate. I laughed. Really now? What sparked the need to make sure that everyone in the pack knows that I am yours? I teased. He walked closer to me, these guards and warriors. Yesterday when I was trying to get to you, one of the guards tried to keep me from you. He did not realize I was your mate. Another guard came and told him I had clearance, before I allowed Ares to kill the bastard for trying to keep me from you. Ares felt the guard was challenging him. When I tried to link you and you did not respond, I freaked out. I could feel your panic, anxiety, and your growing rage. I just knew that I needed to get to you as soon as possible. I knew that you needed me. I cannot explain the fear and terror that funneled through me at the thought that you needed me, and I was not there to help you. I was ready to plow through him and take him and the door out, just so I can get to you. I needed my eyes on you to make sure that you were safe and alive. You also promised before all this, that we could let it all out in the open. There is no longer a reason to hide what we are, especially since I bear your mark. I sighed. I know he is right. He is right about everything that he said, but the fear that I am feeling will not simply go away just because he tells me that everything will be all right. I nodded my head. We can let them know that we are mates, if that would make you feel better. I paused before continuing, and now that I have marked you, I no longer have to worry about anyone trying to take what is mine. You are stuck with me, I giggled. Now, I just have to worry about everyone wanting to take what is mine, he grumbles. Justin, no one looks at me that way. It is a surprise that the entire pack does not know we are mates by now. I haven't left your side since the attack. I figured it would have spread by now that my mark now lies on your neck. Some of those women at the hospital love their gossip. Justin laughed. Love? You really underestimate the way you look and your pack members. I cannot tell you the number of warriors that were hoping they were your mate. Aziel wanted you. I don't think he necessarily wanted to be your mate, he was more or less wanting your body. Yes, I kicked him when I found out. Since that day, none of the other warriors had mentioned wanting you only for your body, but by the goddess, you are very well wanted. And Azil apologized to me, since he thought he had offended me with what he had said. He did not offend me, he pissed me off. Typically, when we go out together, I have seen the way some of the men look at you and I want to kick them. I was protective of you before I found out you were my mate, and now, the need to protect you consumes my being. All I want is your safety. Your happiness, and I would do anything for it. I was quiet for a moment before speaking again. I did not know all that. I could tell the effect that not being able to mark me has had on him. I know the effect that it has been having on his wolf too. I already know that he is mine and I am his, so what is holding me back? Nothing, but my fear is holding me back. Justin has proven time and time again that he is there for me. That he is willing to do absolutely anything for me, and that he is not going to run when gets hard. He has proven over and over that he will not hurt me. He is not capable of hurting me. He loves me and I love him. Why do I keep making excuses for the inevitable? Am I scared to complete the mate bond? Yes. All I have known is pain, and that scares out of me. Don't I at least owe it to him to trust him and prove that I can open up to him and let him love me? I looked at Justin before choosing my next words carefully. You are right, Justin. It is not fair to you to have to wait around for the perfect opportunity to make sure that the pack knows that I am yours and you are mine. I am sorry that I have not been fair to you and your needs. I promise I am working to change that. I love you, Justin. Make me yours. I want you to mark me. Chapter 62. Justin's POV. You are right, Justin. It is not fair to you to have to wait around for the perfect opportunity to make sure that the pack knows that I am yours and you are mine. I am sorry that I have not been fair to you and your needs. I promise I am working to change that. I love you, Justin. Make me yours. I want you to mark me. I froze. Did she really just say what I think she said? She said she wants me to mark her. Did I pressure her to say this? Does she feel that she needs to let me mark her because I don't want other males looking at her? FK. I should have kept my mouth shut. Baby, I didn't mean to make you feel pressured. I will mark you when you are ready for it. I do not want you to feel obligated to be marked by me. Justin, you are not pressuring me. I want to bear your mark. I want you to be yours, just like you are mine. I have marked you as mine, so it is only fair that you have the same courtesy. I want your mark on my neck. I want to be yours. She took a deep breath before continuing. I am not going to lie and say that I am not scared. I am terrified, but I am not terrified of you marking me. I am terrified of completing the mating process. I know that once you mark me, it will only be a matter of time before I go into heat, and it will feel as if you have no choice but to mate me. Catalia, you know I would never do anything that you are not comfortable with. If you are not ready to have S*X with me, then we won't. Simple as that. I can fight off my urges. I told you that I would protect you, always. That includes protecting you from me. Baby, yes, I want to have S*X with you. Yes, I want to complete the bond, but will I do it at the expense of your mental or physical health? No. Never. I promise you that I will not do anything that you are not comfortable with, including mating you. She stared at me before crawling into my lap. She nuzzled her head in my neck. I love you, Justin. I am ready for you. I am ready for this. If I waited for my fears to abate, then we would be waiting forever to complete our bond. I want you now, if you will still have me. She whispered the last part. I placed 2 fingers under her chin and forced her head up to look at me. Caught, love, I will always want you. I will always love you until I am dying breath. I was falling in love with you before I knew you were my mate, and I love you now that I know you are my mate. I will spend the rest of my life with you. If you want me to make you mine in every way, then I will. She smiled at me before nodding her head. I would love to be yours, Justin. Aries was going crazy in my head. Calm down, you are heathen. He calmed down only slightly. What was I going to do with this wolf? Will you mark me? Right now. She nodded her head and tilted her neck to the side for me. I bent down and kissed her marking spot, and she let out a soft moan. I slowly let my fangs extend and pierced her neck. I felt the thrumming of the bond as it snapped into place and her emotions and thoughts flashed through my mind. I was shocked at the amount of love and trust she has placed in me. She was happy. She trusted me. She loved me. I heard her soft moan. I retracted my teeth, and she laid her head against my chest. I love you, she mumbled. I love you, too, I whispered to her while rubbing her back. With the link being in place, I could feel everything that she was feeling. Her emotions were heightened. After she marked me, I could only feel her emotions if I was linking her. Now, I feel them at all times. I bet, if we were ever separated, I would be able to find her. There is something like this invisible string that is pulling me towards her. I could feel my need to fully mate her, but I pushed it back down. I meant every word that I said to her. I would not abandon her, and I would never force her into anything. The biggest test of my resolve will be her heart. She will go into heat any time within the next few days to a week. The only true thing that will abate her heat is to fully mate her, but I will not break my promise to her. I slowly stood up, keeping her in my arms, and readjust us, so we could lay on the bed together. Baby, did you still want to go out? Or would you rather stay in? I asked her. I think I am okay with going out, she mumbled. I could tell she was fighting to sleep, and to be fair, it was probably from being marked. I have heard that when you are marked, you tend to pass out, but it usually depends on how strong your mate is that marked you. With me, I didn't even notice because I was already in a coma-like state, but with Catalia she is pretty strong and is otherwise healthy, so it is going to take a little of a toll on her. She raised her head. I need to get dressed. She slowly got off the bed and made her way to the closet. She quickly threw on some clothes and then walked out. She was hot and I had to adjust the front of my pants. She was wearing a pair of skin-tight leggings, one of my band shirts, and a pair of flats. I don't know what it is about seeing her in one of my shirts that turn me on, but I want her. I want her senseless. I walked to the closet and quickly found myself a shirt to wear and put on some pants before walking out of the closet myself. I held my hand out to her. She grasped it tightly in her hand. Wherever you want to. I decided that we would go for a walk in the town square. Maybe look around at some of the shops and then do a quick dinner and then maybe stop by my house. My sister has returned from her first semester of university, and she has been eager to officially meet my mate. As we were walking out of the pack house, Oliver called out her name. We both turned to face him. Hey, Cot. How are you feeling after yesterday? She glanced up at me before she responded to him. I am feeling much better than I was yesterday. Justin helped me a lot. I looked down at her and saw the soft smile on her face as she said my name. Good, that is the reaction I always want her to have when she thinks of me. I want her to think of happy memories when she thinks of me. I watch as Oliver examines Catalia, paying special attention to her marking spot. He glanced at me quickly before looking back at her. You allowed him to mark you. She nodded her head towards him. I did. I realized several things. Several important things over the past month. One of the most important things I have learned is that I cannot live without him, so I will do everything in my power to make sure that I can stay with him until the end of our days. He smiled at her and reached out to hug her. I am so incredibly happy for you, Kot. You deserve every happiness that this life has to offer you, and I am glad that Justin makes you happy. He reached over to me and clapped me on the back. Congratulations, man. I know you have been waiting since you found out she was your mate to mark her, and now you have. After heading out of the town square, we were met with someone that I never wanted to see again in my life. Chapter 63. Justin's POV. My goddess. I am so glad that you are okay, Justin. I have been worried sick about you. Anna. Anna was here in the middle of the town square. She must really have a death wish. If the entire pack did not know that Catalia was my mate, they were about to find out. I could sense Catalia's growing anger. Anna ran over to me and tried to hug me, but I sidestepped at the last minute to avoid her. I have told you not to touch me, Anna. I said coldly. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes, and then her eyes zoomed in on the mark adorning my neck. You let that alpha mark you, she screamed at me. I could tell we were beginning to garner a lot of unwanted attention. I could feel Catalia's anger rising, and I knew soon she was going to snap. I walked closer to Anna and looked into her eyes menacingly. You will never talk about my mate like that ever again. I made sure I enunciated my words carefully, so there was not a chance that she would misunderstand me. Catalia walked up behind me, and I could tell that she was pushing out her alpha aura. Her aura no longer affected me since we had marked each other, but I could tell that it was affecting Anna and all the curious bystanders. Most of them had already tilted their heads into submission. What did I tell you about coming near my mate? What did I tell you about talking about me? Did you think I was joking? I watched as Catalia searched for the crowd, almost as if she was looking for someone. When it appeared that she had finally found out who she was looking for, her eyes glazed over as she was linking them. I watched Gale and Aziel moved out of the crowd of onlookers. Aziel, Gale. Will you please escort Miss Parks to the dungeons? See to it that they know she is to be left in there for 24 hours. And Miss Parks, the next time you disobey me, I will make sure you get the lashings with the silver engravings. I watched as she swallowed nosily before she tilted her head in submission to Catalia. As they left, Catalia turned to the curious onlookers. You may all be wondering what that was about. 2 years ago, I found my mate. I was hesitant to accept him, so we kept it quiet. However, after recent events that led to his near death, I realized that I could not live without him. He is the love of my life, and I cannot stand the thought of parting. As of this morning, we both have been marked by the other. There were loud cheers and shouts of congratulations from those that were in the crowd. Several of the warriors I knew came and patted me on the back offering their congratulations, and a few of them apologized through the link about some of the things that they might have said about betting my mate. I growled low in my throat at the reminder of what some of them had said they wanted to do with my mate. I placed my hand on the small of her back and leaned down to whisper in her ear, I guess that was one way to let everyone know. She chuckled and turned around to face me, wrapping her arms around my neck. I guess it was. Now, news is sure to spread throughout the rest of the pack about us. I bent down to give her a small kiss on the lips, but Catalia had other plans. Before I could pull away, Catalia pulled on my bottom lip and sucked it into her mouth. My automatic reaction was to groan before I kissed her back. I pushed my tongue against her lips, requesting access. She slowly parts her lips, allowing my tongue to taste every inch of her mouth. The sounds of cheering and whistling brought me back to the present. I had momentarily forgotten that we were not alone, but rather in a crowd full of people. I slowly pulled back and watched as she suddenly remembered where we were. I watched as her cheeks brightened. Goddess, I could never tire of seeing her blush. I placed my forehead against hers as we both tried to even out our breathing. I love you, I whispered, low enough for only her to hear. I love you too. I looked at the crowd and yelled, all right now. Show is over, continue on with your day. The crowd laughed as they dispersed. I wrapped my arm around Catalia's waist, and we walked along the town square. The first few shops we passed, we did not go into. Catalia ran into one of the female warriors and she told her about the sale that one of the clothing stores was having, so Catalia decided that we had to go. I will say that shopping with Catalia was an experience. She treated me as if I was her personal shopping cart. I did not mind. I enjoyed the carefree smile on her face as we shopped. After the first store, Catalia stopped trying to pay. Every time she would try and hand her credit card to the cashier, I would simply pluck it out of her hands and hand her to mine. She grunted the first time I did it, but she quickly got over it and allowed me to pay for everything. Once she finished her shopping, she ran into one of the girls that she went to school with, who had recently moved to White Fang. I let go of her waist and she looked at me questioningly. I will be back, I want to go check something out. She nodded her head, and I walked off. I walked through about a block of shops before I finally found the store I was looking for. Jasper's Finest Jewels. I walked in and was greeted by Jasper. You are looking for something specific, Justin? Jasper asked me. Of course. You know me so well, Jasper. I am looking for a ring to propose to my mate with. I want to be traditional with her. I know wolves do not typically have any big, fancy weddings, but I want to make her mine in every single way possible. You aren't the first one to have come to me with something like that, son. Let me show you some of my collection. He takes me to his glass display case and starts to show me some of the engagement rings that he has. There was one in particular that caught my eye. That one. I pointed to it. I want that one. I had him change the gems to her birthstone and add an engraving to it. He picks up the ring and looks at the specifications that I listed. She is going to love it. I paid half to him now and the other half will be due when I pick up the ring. I quickly left the jewelry store and my way back to Catalia. First, I stopped and picked up a small gift for my sister as an excuse for leaving her. My sister's birthday is tomorrow anyway, so this is perfect. I chuckled to myself. She will never see this coming. I spot Catalia as her friend was walking away. Hey, you, she said as I walked up to her, where did you go? I grinned. I had to pick up something for my sister's birthday tomorrow and this was the perfect time to go find something. Are you ready to go? I questioned her. She nodded her head enthusiastically. I bent to pick up the remainder of her bags. If I had decided to do more shopping, I would have had to find a pack mule. She giggled, I don't think you can carry any more, baby. I laughed. You are right. I am hitting pretty close to my limit, but I would do anything for you with my love, including carrying all your shopping bags and paying for your shopping spree. You are mine. The smile on her face was more than worth everything. I would do this 100 times over if I got to see this smile every day for the rest of my life. Chapter 64 Catalia's POV. I have no idea what she was thinking appearing and coming up to Justin like she owned him. I thought I made perfectly clear in the park that Justin was mine and not hers. I guess I should rethink how I word that. Justin is not a piece of property for me to own, but I guess in a sense that is kind of what the mate bond is like. The bond makes you feel as if you are missing a piece of your soul when you are away from each other. Before, when I was fighting the mate bond, I struggled every second of the day in order to stay away from Justin. I was not sleeping. I struggled with eating. Some days I felt it was getting hard for me to breathe. The moment that I lit up him and he appeared at my door was single-handedly the best, but worst moment of my life. It was the best because I knew that I would finally be able to rest my overreactive head. Thoughts were constantly running in and out of my head. It was like my mind magically became like the Energizer Bunny when it was time for bed. The moment that Justin appeared at my door, the thoughts stopped, and I was greeted by silence. The worst was because I had to admit my weakness. I did not want Justin to see that weakness in me, however, that weakness allowed me to see that Justin was struggling too. Justin would not tell me that he hadn't been sleeping either. He would never admit that. He would not admit that he was struggling without me with him, but I cannot blame him for that since I would not myself admit it. I am sure his wolf was going just as crazy as mine was. Sky was constantly chatting in my head, demanding that I do not reject. Demanding that I did not get rid of her mate. As she puts it, Aries and her should not be punished for their human stupid decisions. I just rolled my eyes at her remarks. Now I think about what I had almost lost, I am relieved that she did not allow me to reject him at first sight. My trauma had to deal with me. It was not fair of me to direct all my pain, anger, fear, and rage towards someone who did not do anything wrong. She was right. 100% right. He did nothing wrong, and he deserved the chance that I was too scared to give him. I was scared. I was scared of what it would mean for me to allow him into my life. In the short amount of time that we have been together, he has become my light in the darkest of hours, my beautiful ray of sunshine, and most importantly someone that I cherish above all others. Rejecting Justin would have been the worst decision of my life. While that day that I allowed myself to show my moment of weakness and allow Justin into my room, into my bed, it single-handedly became the best day of my life. I am glad that I showed that weakness. I am happier than I ever thought would have been after what I had been through. He has done everything in his power to prove to me that I was wrong about him. I was wrong about men in general. They were not all out to hurt you. Just like with any race, there are the good and the bad. The men that attacked me were a part of the bad side of men, however, Justin is a part of the good side. I am glad that my family was able to convince me to give him the chance that he most definitely deserved. They understood, or at least understood as best as they could, that I was scared because of circumstances that I was forced through. I was a scared little girl stuck in a grown-up's body because the unfortunate truth was, I was not over the attack. I was not over what happened to me, but I am working to slowly overcome that pain and trauma. I used to think that I was over the pain and trauma, but all it took was one conversation with a rogue that had me spiraling out of control, which is a scare feeling. I thank the moon goddess for him every day that I am alive and breathing. We had just left the little town in the middle of the pack. Justin decided that we needed to stop by our room before heading anywhere else because I had a lot of shopping bags that he was having to carry. Poor guy. He did it too without any complaining about how much money I spent or the fact that he was left with all the gifts. I figured he would complain about how much I spent, since he was making me use his card, even though I repeatedly told him that I had the money to pay for everything on my own. What are you thinking about so hard? Justin asked inquisitively. I looked over at him and I nearly laughed at the expression on his face. He looked so worried to find out what I was thinking about. Poor guy, I guess I will take him out of his misery. Nothing bad, I laughed, I was actually thinking about you. I reached over and laced my hand through the crook of his elbow and laid my head on his shoulder as we continued to walk. All good things I hope, he laughed. Of course, nothing about good things when it comes to you, baby. I was thinking about the past and what would have become of us if I had decided to reject you, and how I am forever grateful that I did not reject you. I know I sometimes complain about how much Sky talks and how insistent that she was that I did not reject you and gave you the chance she felt you deserved, but in this instant, I am forever grateful that she was a pain to me about accepting you. It might just be the best decision of my life right now. Justin stopped walking and turned to face me. He laid the shopping bags on the ground before softly grabbing my face and pulling it up to look him in the eye. You are single-handedly the best decision that I have ever made in my life. I love you more than I could have possibly conveyed to you, Catalia. You have become my heart, my soul, my reason for getting up in the mornings. It has always been you, even before I found out we were mates, love. You were the one that I constantly kept wanting to go back to and I was getting so frustrated each time you shot me down. I never understood the reasonings for your excuses. Michael would tell me that you just needed time, but I was selfish. I did not want you to need time, I wanted you. I wanted to get to know you. I wanted to love you. I felt that we were always meant to be, and I was praying that we were mates. Once I found out we were mates, that made my will to try to break through your hard exterior 10 times more important, and I am so glad that I did. You baby. It has and will always be you. He finishes by leaning down and capturing my lips in a slow and sensual kiss. I kissed him back enthusiastically, groaning into his mouth when he captured and bit down on my lower lip. Once he pulled back from the kiss, he leaned his forehead against mine and he whispered, I love you, Catalia. More than my own life. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.